having some fun outside. I think we're gonna have a picnic, have a fire. I got to do some dancing later. Just gonna stay outside and talk at this voice level for the rest of the evening. Let's do this! Woo-hoo! Yes! I love that one. What's going on, everybody? We're actually inside. You probably thought we were going to do this video outside in that weather. You're wrong. We're inside in the home of Mr. Carl Baldassarre. Thank you, Carl, for having us at your house to make these videos. I'm very excited to be here and excited to be here with you.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, man. Carl is a fantastic person and an amazing guitar player, composer. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel, Carl Baldassarre. Baldassarre. 2 R's, 2 E's, correct?
Yep.
Make sure I got all that right. But great channel. If you love guitar, just learning about music in general, please go check out Carl's channel. Carl's going to stay with me today while we go through these drum grooves. That very first one was the song Stargazer, the band Rainbow, and the drummer, the incredible Cozy Powell. Now, unfortunately, Cozy Powell's not with us anymore. He passed away quite a while ago now, but he was an iconic drummer, a fantastic rock and roll drummer with a very varied career. He played with all kinds of artists, and the guy knew how to rock. Definitely. This song, Stargazer, is really one of the great rock and roll drum intros of all time because it's long, right? It's not just a couple of beats. It really shows off what he could do, and it sets up the song in such a great way. And if you love Rainbow, you love good rock and roll, you love Ronnie James Dio's voice singing, then this is a great record to check out. And if you're not a fan or don't know much about Cozy's drumming, he's definitely a great study. If you're a new drummer and you want to get into some of the old guys who came before us, who paved the way, he's a great guy to check out because there's a lot to learn from Cozy's playing. All right, enough talking there. What's cool about this intro is that you really utilize the doubles between your snare and your kick. Now, Cozy was a double bass player, so he had 2 kick drums. I have a pedal here, and I do it that way, but you can do it with a single pedal if you have good doubles in your right foot or in your single foot. But if you are going to use a double pedal, it's just right, left on the snare, and then right, left on the kick drum. That's the basic form of it, and you kind of go back and forth up to tempo, and it's like this. With the single foot, I don't know, you can definitely do it with a single foot, and if you have a strong single kick where you can do doubles really strongly, it can sound close. We were talking about this earlier, the difference between a double on the single kick drum or using 2 kick drums or a double pedal. When you play doubles with your 1 foot, in general, the very first hit of the double is going to be a tiny bit quieter than the second hit. I think it's just because of the nature of the way your ankle moves down onto the foot plate of the kick drum, and to push it down, that first stroke just is going to be a little bit softer. And it's slight, but it's cool for some things. Doubles when you play Latin music, a good double like that. When you're playing funk music. Having that first stroke of the double just this much quieter is funky.
Yeah.
But when you're going to get into playing some rock, doing it with the double pedal, if you can play it this way, makes both of the hits more even in volume. And just a little ballsier, a little heavier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's no relief.
Right, exactly.
You know? It's just like a speed bag, you know?
Right. Totally. Think of that, yeah. Exactly. So to start this intro out, he does that little tiny little theme, that little phrase at the beginning. Boom. You kind of sing along to it. And he orchestrated between the snare and sounds like his rack tom on the record, at least. That last kick drum, that's the best part of that part. Punches you right in the gut. Then you go to. I love it. 4 bars of the 16th notes between the snare and the kick drum. Except at the beginning, on beat 1 of each bar, you accent the snare double. So, right? So that gives you it points out the beginning of each bar, basically. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that, and then just because he needs a little bit more, because he's not quite finished yet, at the end of that, you've got to get your left foot off of your kick drum pedal and move it to your hi-hat so you can do the stabs. And all those stabs are on upbeats. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and all the in-between 16th notes, and that's the whole intro. I want to mention right here that I will make transcriptions of all the drum intros today, and I'll leave a PDF in the description below so you can download it. Sometimes it's easier to see these things, even if you don't really read drum music. It's easy to kind of see which bar does what. It might make it a little bit easier for you to work out when you're behind your drum kit. And there you go. Carl, do you have anything you could add to this?
Yeah, just actually being in the room and watching you play this and break it down, I now realize, I mean, this is one of my favorite drum intros of all time. And the way you broke it down, actually now I see it compositionally, that there are 3 basic units. It's really one of the longest drum intros, I think, in rock. I'm not sure how many.
There's one at the end of this list, on number 5, is going to be long like this one.
Okay.
But,
so it's long. So, I mean, that could get boring pretty quick, unless the construction is as clever as this is. And there's 3 parts of this. There's that opening alternating sound. Do that. To me, that feels a little humorous and conversational. There's a dialogue going on.
That's a good way to think about that. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, okay. And then so he kind of sets that up, and then he goes into, now it's rock and roll time. And now, here are the exclamation points that ends this statement. And off we go. It's an entire sentence with structure to it. There's nouns, there's verbs. It's really, really cool, man.
That is really cool, and what a great way to explain it. I wouldn't have thought about that in a million years.
Until you explained it and broke it down like that, I didn't realize why this thing has never gotten boring to me.
Wow.
If it had been just one long thing of one of those things, it wouldn't have the variety, wouldn't have the dynamics. It's really, really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
That was cool. What a great way to explain that. Cool.
One interesting rumor about Cozy Powell in terms of how great he was, did you know that he was the only drummer that Ritchie Blackmore tried to recruit and made Ritchie Blackmore wait for the answer? Not many people would ever wait or make Ritchie wait. Cozy waited before he said, yeah, I'll take the gig.
Well, he was a very sought-after player back in those days, playing with Jeff Beck and all the other stuff he was doing, and then what he moved on to later in his career. Cozy was the man back then, especially in that style of music, sort of metal, hard rock player. He was right up there with the best of all of them.
Yeah, and I think word had it was the pairing of Dio and Blackmore, which this album was the first pairing of the two of them, pushed him over the top. Said, yeah, so there's a little bit of fun fact.
All right, we started off with a bang, and now we're going to get to drum intro number 2. It has a lot of meaning to me. Let's do it. That is so good. Your guitar sounds so awesome. Isn't that a great intro? That song is The Rover by Led Zeppelin, the one of a kind, probably the greatest of all time, John Bonham as the drummer on that track. Now, the reason that track it means a lot to me is that's the very first rock song I ever really learned on the drums. I was around 6 years old, maybe 7, but I think it was my 6th year. My brother's 8 years older than me, my brother Mike. He turned me on to everything I listened to as a kid musically. Everything I really learned to love and got into, progressive rock and all of those things. And he loved Zeppelin. He saw Zeppelin on the Houses of the Holy Tour 2 nights in a row at the Forum in L.A.
Wow.
Keith Moon sat in one night. He sat front row. I mean, come on. That's The Song Remains the Same tour. That's, come on. Anyway, so I don't know, he gave me Physical Graffiti, the record, and I don't know, it spoke to me, this tune, maybe because the drums start the song. And I was, I just started playing, I was a kid and stuff, and then he was in a cover band, and I used to beg him to take me to rehearsals so I could sit in with the band and play this tune. And I actually played the whole song. I remember that, sitting in the garage. Mike Rodriguez was his parents' house, and he was the drummer and all this stuff. So it's a very special tune to me, and it's John Bonham playing, so it's just fantastic. Now, it's not that hard, but it's got attitude, and a lot of these grooves have attitude, and I think that's really important. The first groove that Cozy Powell played, it was technical, and you had to play a lot of notes, but you had to play with that attitude. This one is much simpler, a lot less notes, but just it needs to be grounded and laid back, and just you lay into the drums. Now, before I get into the little bit of the details of the groove itself, if you're sitting at home and you have a small electronic kit, you don't have acoustic drums, you could still play this groove. It might sound a little bit different, but the mechanics of it all, you can still totally do no matter what you're sitting behind. John Bonham had giant drums he played back in the day, Ludwig drums, 26-inch kick drum, wide open toms. His rack tom was like, the smallest rack tom he had was a 14. That's the same size as my snare, but that was his first rack tom. So the drums are huge. We don't have that opportunity. I have a nice, beautiful Pearl kit here, but it's small. I could still play this groove and have a great time and just learn the vocabulary of the groove, add it to your arsenal, and then turn it into your own thing. Just add it to your package of tricks to do other things with. And it's just fun to do. So whatever you're playing on, don't let that stop you. Still get into this and anything else. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's true. I agree.
All right, so now let me break this groove down a little bit. It's pretty simple. Let me quickly break down this couple bars of intro at the very beginning when the drums are playing by themselves. Your hi-hat and your kick drum are playing the same rhythm. It's like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3 and a 4 and a. So it's a 2-bar drum intro. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3 and a 4 and a. So it's pretty basic. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3 and a 4 and a. John Bonham was amazing at doing simple fills like that, just very straight, but with such conviction. They didn't need to be technical or lots of notes. Just that alone was all the song needed to give it that weight to move the band to the next section of the song, right? So that's it. Basically in your right hand, even though you're playing that rhythm, those accents on those rhythms, you're still playing eighth notes. Pretty much your hand is really moving through the whole thing. So your hand is still playing eighth notes, so it's pretty straight in your right side. And your snare drum, to round it out, just plays on beat 2 of each bar. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and then the fill at the end. 3 and a 4 and. That's the whole intro. The rest of it, the guitar kicks in at that point, and you're playing roughly the same sort of patterns, but they're changed a little bit here and there. And but just that beginning 2 bars, that's what's happening.
Very, very cool. When I sit back and listen to you describe this one seems to be like just a couplet, a unit. There's 2 parts to it. There's the intro that has the offbeat, kind of starts getting you into that little funky feel to it, and then he accelerates rapidly at the end to push us into it, And I think even though you call it simple, I think the thing to keep in mind, whether you're a drummer, guitar player, especially a composer, that I think the art of being musical is knowing what to take away, and being able to take things out sometimes really, really makes music more musical. And he says a lot with so little on this.
Totally. All right, quickly here, before we get into groove number 3, I want to talk about my friend Carl. We're here at his place in Ohio. We've known each other for a long time. I think it was 2017 we met.
Yep.
And after that meeting, we became friends. I found out he writes a lot of great songs. He plays guitar. Hey, Nick, I'd like you to record on some songs. 50 some odd songs later that I've recorded with Carl. I'm sitting here at his place and we're doing this together. So we also had a side project, which is still kind of going on, called The Soul of Zeppelin.
Yeah.
playing with Marcus Scott and Jacob Dupre, Al Rolick doing some Zeppelin in a cool, creative way, and just it's really fun to perform with you, and it's great to sit here next to you talking about music like this. It's really cool. So if you would be so kind to tell the folks who may not know about you very much, who is Carl Baldassarre?
Friend of Nick DiVirgilio. What more do you need to know? I guess I would describe myself as a composer, guitar player, and on the composer side, pretty diverse. Maybe it's my ADD, but I can't stay focused on one genre. I love writing in every style, and I'm a bit of a historian as well. And I love looking at music through the arc of time and see how the past, I'm talking hundreds of years, informs what's going on in the present. So I like that. I'm a bit of a musical nerd as well, but born and raised in the great heyday of the 60s and the 70s, where so much great music, including progressive rock, which both of us really have spent a lot of time with my band Syzygy and Nick's band Spock's Beard, and now Big Big Train, and all the other things that you've done in the past. So yeah, that's kind of who I am and what I do. And by the way, when I find something good, I don't let go. That's why I've done 50 songs with him, and I've been to London Abbey Road Studios with him. Helped collaborate on your album.
That's right. Carl was the composer for the prelude on my record Invisible. So sitting here playing Rainbow and Zeppelin with you, and then you hear the prelude. If you want to go check it out, wherever good music is streamed, listened to, or bought. Check out the prelude, and it's amazing. You wrote and arranged for the orchestra at Abbey Road. It's such a beautiful piece of music, and it sets up my record in an awesome way. So check that out as well. So yeah, you can really do it all, man.
That's awfully kind. And so can he.
And when he says he studies history, it really is interesting to sit down and talk about stuff and get into things that you can get kind of deep into it. There's a deepness into the conversation, which is really cool, because that music from way back when really informs what we do today. It's the precursor of all of that stuff. So it has its place, and it's definitely a great study. And it's neat to hear those kinds of things.
Yeah, I specialize in riffs on my YouTube channel, and I'll tell you, there's just such a close connection between what Mozart was doing, or Beethoven with ya-da-da-da, and what Jimmy Page is doing, da-da-da-da-da. I mean, they're all riffs. There's just different types of equipment and technology used, but really it's as old as humankind. Yeah. So yeah, the past does sort of preview the present and the future.
So make sure you definitely go check out Carl's YouTube channel, Carl Baldassarre. Get into all kinds of things, and it's a wonderful educational experience and just very entertaining as well. So thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Nick.
Appreciate it, man.
Okay.
So let's get on to drum intro number 3. One, two, three, four. Did you know what that song was? That's one of the great classic songs where when you hear the drum part, you know what song is coming. The song is My Sharona. The band, The Knack, the drummer was Bruce Gary. Now this song, at least in the States, was massive. 1979, 1980, it was a #1 hit on the radio 50 times a day. It was just plastered everywhere. And it's got one of the iconic drum intros of all time. Very simple, but again, just attitude, attitude, attitude. The rhythm pattern for the kick drum and the snare drum do the exact same thing with the guitar. And the rhythm is pretty simple. Let me sing it out for you real quick here. Here's our pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and 3 and 3E. It's the E. That's the 16th note there at the end. But very simple. Just eighth notes back and forth, right? 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3. So very simple in that respect, right? You put the two together, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what's cool about that too, another one of these tiny little musical choices that I think is really cool, he crashes on the 1 when you go to the ba ba da da, he gets the crash there, but doesn't play the rest of that rhythm with the guitar. He just plays that crash and goes back to driving again. To me, that is cool. And it's a nice musical choice that you didn't have to hit the rhythm totally together. It's just, to me,
That's a good point.
there's still a propulsion that's happening that's really cool. The other thing that's really cool about this pattern that makes it neat and fun to play is what you're doing on the snare drum. You flam the snare drum hits. You don't just play single hits. So every 2 and 4, instead of just a backbeat with a single hit, you flam it, and it really takes the energy level up quite a lot. So how about I play that pattern without the flam, and then I play the pattern with the flam. Play the pattern with the flam, and see if you can hear the difference.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think after I do two.
Okay.
I'll play them both ways, and
Very
then
cool.
give me your thoughts on it.
Right.
So first without, and then with. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it just me, or do you? When I flam the snare drum on that thing, it's just that much more. It's like you turn it up to 11 from 10, right? And it gives it more life to it.
It's kind of sexier.
Yeah,
It
right?
is.
It is.
Yeah, a little sauce on there. Yeah.
So
I love it.
This is
you go from like basically with the without the flam, it's got this sort of Gene Krupa kind of era vibe, and then it just goes
makes
to
it more rock and roll
It's
immediately,
total rock
right?
and
Yeah.
roll. My goodness.
So again, simple but with attitude. So especially if you're a beginning player, you're just kind of getting into all this stuff. The attitude is key. Play that snare drum with like your life depended on it. Just with attitude. Don't worry about the volume so much. Just nice and groovy. Make sure your time is good, of course. The pocket's there. But the attitude, the way you hit the drums really comes across to the listener, and how it gets recorded, all of those things. The attitude is a big part of it. And there you go. Drum intro number 3. Number tres. Now we're going on number 4.
4.
Number 4 is so iconic. You know exactly what song this is right from the get-go. And this song has stood the test of time. It's just as popular today as it was back then, at least in my mind. It's heard all the time. It's still on the radio all the time. Other bands have covered this song. Let's get to drum intro number 4 right now. Three, 4. Oh, yeah. Tell me you didn't know that song right when I started playing it. Immediately. Walk This Way. Aerosmith, Joey Kramer, the drummer. Just what a cool thing. And again, simple. He's basically just playing a groove there. There's nothing too crazy about it. But again, it's the attitude. And there's a couple of special things about the way he's hitting certain parts of his drum kit. And from what I can gather, we were talking about this earlier, that riff, it's not that easy to play.
No, it's really, really deceptively difficult just to get the groove. And the way they play it, if you watch how they're playing it and picking it, they're doing it all with their first finger. So, so. Yeah, and so it's a little fussy to get with just one finger.
Yeah.
But that's where the sound is coming from on this one. You could do it with all your fingers, but it wouldn't sound the same.
Wouldn't sound the same. Yeah, I get it. For the drum part, Joey Kramer was a very unique drummer in the way he hit the drums, and that goes part and parcel with the way this whole thing sounds. And it's, I don't know, this is just what I've gathered through, because I'm a fan of the band. I've listened to a lot of Aerosmith. I played a lot of the songs throughout my life. Really like the band quite a bit. Joey Kramer in his right hand, his lead hand, his hi-hat hand, however you want to call it. And I say this, I'm not sure how else to say it, because I don't mean this in a bad way. He had a stiff right hand. He was typically, the way I see him play, he didn't play the drums like a lot of drummers do, and I do it, where his wrist is going up and down. You get a loud hit and a soft hit back and forth. And what that up and down motion with your wrist does is help you play faster as well. There's molar technique, and we're not going to get into that right now, but there's these techniques to build up your speed when your wrist is moving, your elbow's coming out, this kind of thing. That's part of the molar technique. Different subject, different video. But the way Joey played a lot of his grooves was he had this stiffness in his right hand, which made the hi-hat part or the ride pattern, it gave it a driving motion. That's what makes this intro so cool, is that it's driving the band forward. It's like hitting the gas and going, and everybody's following the drummer, and that hi-hat motion really is the galloping, the force moving forward. And it just couples with the rest of the groove really well. At the beginning of that groove, right on beat 1, you play that snap with the hi-hat, the open hi-hat, and your foot. That open snap lasts for almost the whole quarter note. You're playing eighths, your hand is moving in an eighth note fashion. But when you open up the hi-hat, you kind of keep it open for the length of a whole quarter note. So you don't really hear the second eighth note, if that makes sense. That's getting really into the weeds, but...
Does he do it on every strike?
Just those, just the downbeats.
Just the downbeats,
yeah,
right.
So it's...
Okay.
Right?
So it helps
accent the downbeat of each bar.
Got it.
Really grounds the one.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to the one, James Brown. Get me to the one. So that's a really important part of it. And there's some coordination in there, opening the hi-hat just in a way to make it so it sounds like the hi-hat's doing this almost reverse cymbal sound. Whoosh, go doom, doom, cat. Whoosh. So you go. Just the way the cymbals work together, they're ringing off of each other, and it's perfect for this particular song. And the other thing that makes this groove special is the double in the right foot. The snare hand is playing 2 and 4, so that's pretty simple. You just play the backbeat in your snare hand. But the right foot, along with that open hat, is the special sauce. So kick drum pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeated over and over. 1, 2, 3, 4. That double is super important and really gives the second half of the groove, of the pattern, its special flavor. So the first half you have that open hat on 1, then you have the and 3 and on the double on the kick drum. Marry those together with just rocking straight, that stiffness right hand that Joey had, and you have this iconic drum intro. Yes! Oh, that is so much fun to play, and it's a beast. The song is Fireball, the band is Deep Purple, and the drummer is the great Ian Pace. So a long drum intro. As Stargazer was number 1, I saved the other long one for number 5 here in my drum intros today, and it's a beast to play, but so much fun. Ian Pace, what a drummer. The dude is a monster. He still is a monster to this day, and had such a great feel, and he was just an iconic rock drummer. So this is a great study in all kinds of things. Double bass playing, just getting the timing and the coordination for things like that. Putting in fills over the top of your kick drums, playing those 16th notes. That is a really hard thing to do because you have to really separate your bottom half from your top half, but keep them in time at the same time, if that makes sense, right? Because you want to play fills, do other things with your hands while the kick drums just keep going. You sort of do that already when you play regular drum, like a regular drum groove and you try to do a fill, but this is just, you have this constant motion down below that you have to try and keep solid, and it stays the same. There's not much wavering in the notes and the volume of the notes, any of that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about slowing down this song and how you could really hear how spot on this band was back then. But this kind of thing. I do all that because just to show you that the bottom half just keeps playing the 16th notes, the same steady stream, and then you try to free up your top half to do really anything you want. There's some great drummers out there in the world who can really take this to an extreme. I'm pretty basic at that kind of thing, but it's still a great study and fun to practice for sure, because you really get the independence of your top and bottom half.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
The picture that comes to mind when you describe that is of a fraction where you have a denominator and a numerator. and the denominator is constant in this. It's the same number the whole time.
Yeah.
It's the numerator that's changing. So I look at it visually that way.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
A couple things about this intro. The first thing is the very first bar, well, the very beginning is this. That is what takes you in. That's how he gets himself into the groove. This really fast 30-second note flurry. The way I'm doing it and the way I think he's doing it, it's how I'm hearing it on the record. It's a left, right, and then 2 on the kick drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. That gets you in. It's a hard way to start the groove. But what's cool about it is when you start with your left hand, you have to come back right on beat 1 with your snare drum. So starting that little fill with your left hand brings the snare drum right down to you here. It makes it, it's an easy transition to go from your rack tom to your snare drum. If you started that fill with your right hand or something like that, you wouldn't be able to get back to 1 on the snare drum as easily. So that's what that is for. Right after that, the first chunk of this groove is 7 beats long. Why? Nobody knows why. They recorded this song in the early 70s, right? Who knows why? There's a bar of 7. But that's what it is. So if you listen to this groove and you put it on and you didn't know that bar of 7 was there, it would sound very strange. By the time the guitar comes in, it would be like 1 beat early or 1 beat late. It'd be on the upbeat. It'd be just in the wrong feeling place. But if you know that that first chunk is actually 7 beats long instead of 8 beats long, that should help you out.
I know what happened. Management gets a 12% cut, which is 1/8. So the management took the 1/8 note. Yeah.
There you go. I've been wondering about this my whole life. So
Math.
Okay, well, right.
I was thinking, fraction. I was going with that whole thing.
That's good. No, I like it.
1/8 is 12%.
Carl was in banking.
No, it's 12.5%. 12.5%. Sorry.
That's all right. Carl was in banking and numbers. The numbers game for many years. So I'm sure this comes very easily to you, right? Figure out these things quickly. Okay, but so after the bar of 7, there's actually 4 bars of just regular time, 4 times. So it's 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then the guitar comes in. Okay? So, but there is also a repeating thing happening in the snare drum. It happens in that first bar of 7 as well, but it's the beginning of the phrase each time the bar comes back around. Let me sing out the snare rhythm, this little phrase, this little theme that he's doing. 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4, right? That's the rhythm. The right hand is pretty much just playing the 8th notes. So it's straight time with your right side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, that kind of thing. 16th notes in the feet, that theme in your left hand, and then he has fills. So plays 1 bar with that snare drum theme. Second bar is basically like half the bar, and then he does a drum fill, the second half of the bar, repeats the whole thing again, a whole bar of that theme, and then the end of the last bar, getting into where the guitar comes in. This is the hardest part. That little fill on the last 2 beats of the bar. Straight 30-second notes, but again, your feet are still going, and you have to get right into, you don't stop. You get right into the first verse of the song. So you've got to get right back into just jamming 2 and 4 with the 16th notes on the kick. So your kick drums don't stop. So playing that fast 30-second note thing over the top of it, what you want to try to do is have it not trip up your feet to where you lose time and you have to kind of stop that motion. Because if the kick drum stopped playing, it would, the air would come out of the balloon a little bit, sort of that
Definitely.
feeling, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let me kind of show what I mean. If I played that fill at the end without the kick drums underneath it, see what you think. What do you think about this sound? Okay. So. Now it's not bad.
No.
Right? There's plenty of reasons why you would do that in certain situations, right? Not have to stop the kick drums, but this is what it sounds like when the kick drums keep going through it. 2, 3, 4. there's just a rolling motion that just, it's like the car's going 100 miles an hour down the highway and it's not stopping.
The song is called Fireball for a
For
reason.
a reason, Pete. Thank you very much. Woo! To hear how tight Deep Purple was as a band. Now you got to remember, back in these days, they recorded as a band. They probably didn't play with a click track. I imagine they played this free as a band, in the room, probably isolated and all that kind of stuff, but they played as a group. Now there's a couple of different programs. You use the one called Amazing Slow Downer, and I have one called AnyTune Pro. These are programs or apps you can put a song in, slow it down as much as you want. The pitch stays the same. So you can learn a guitar part slowed down in the right key. You can learn vocal parts and, of course, drum parts as well. So we took this tune, slowed it down to about 70%. Yep. When you get that slow, there is a shuffly, bouncy feeling to this groove that you don't hear when it's at full tempo. It sounds just straight, but it's just like it's like a galloping horse going down the track, right? Also, what you hear is everybody in the band, John Lord on the keys, on his organ, Roger Glover playing bass, Richie Blackmore, and of course Ian Pace, all playing those fast 16th notes together, and it's just like locked. You know, because the organ is very percussive. You hear lots of transients, and it sounds like another drummer in the background, a percussion player, but he's obviously got the melodic thing of an organ going too. The percussiveness of the pick hand, how it hits the string has a percussive sound to it. And same, I think Roger Glover was playing with a pick. Yeah, so it's just like you have all these percussion elements, even though all the other melodic instruments are playing their notes too. All come together in this just...
And the chances for that flamming are pretty high.
But
unless you as
I
locked
mean,
together
maybe
as they were.
Who knows? They may have rehearsed the heck out of this stuff and played it a million times before they recorded, probably. But I also think that these guys were tremendous musicians, and they were a cohesive group. They gelled together as a team.
Yeah, and they understood the groove that was implied, even though it was at this fast tempo. When we slowed it down, we're going, oh, yes.
Yeah.
We could really hear that. Then when you speed it back up, you actually don't hear it the same way again anymore.
Right.
You feel that.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hope you enjoyed these 5 grooves because I wanted to take you through some technical stuff, Stargazer, Fireball, fast, frenetic drumming, lots of coordination happening. Some easier ones like my Sharona, the Rover, Walk This Way, iconic songs, but just a simpler vibe. But all of these songs, what they all have in common is the attitude behind them. Each drummer, the way they played them, is just a great study, which I hope all of you, especially as new players, will take into consideration when you're playing your drums. Give it your all. That doesn't necessarily mean volume, right? What it means is just attitude. It'll flow through your sticks. If the attitude and your soul is strong, it'll flow through your sticks and into your instrument, and the listener will get a lot more enjoyment out of it.
Amen.
Okay. All right. And there you have it, 5 great drum-only intros in rock and roll music. Now, this is just the first in this series. I'm not sure when the next video is going to come, but there are many more great rock and roll drum intros, and we'll get to those in another video. But for these 5, I hope you enjoyed the hang with me and Carl today. Carl, thank you so much for making this video with me. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Now, what I'm going to do to finish this out now is put all of these intros together back to back. Wish me luck. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again next time. Here we go. Okay.
That was amazing. It was so fun.
Cool.
Oh my God.
All right, let's cut.